Hi, my name is Jamie Crawley, and I'm the current president of the Austin Soccer Foundation. We're pleased to join each of you today as a supporting sponsor of the first annual Texas Soccer Summit organized by the Striker. Our charitable organization is a 501c3 nonprofit that serves to make a difference in our community through inclusive, equitable support and initiatives based on our love of the beautiful game. Here is Catalina Berry, one of our board members, to share a little more about the Austin Soccer Foundation.
Thank you, Jamie. The Austin Soccer Foundation is celebrating its 6th anniversary this month. It has been our pleasure to support the underserved and economically disadvantaged soccer community in Austin and surrounding areas through academic advancement, player and field development, and referee development. We have been fortunate to distribute an excess of $30,000 in academic scholarships to 16 graduating seniors as they have embarked on their post-high school journeys, and we continue to grow this initiative. In the area of player and field development, we have donated goals, equipment, and uniforms, and we provided consulting to help establish the Texas School for the Deaf's girls soccer team. We also funded a futsal court for the Montopolis Idea School and have donated to Austin Independent School District Athletics, benefiting 72 boys and girls middle school soccer teams and over 920 soccer players. We've also collected and distributed gently used soccer boots through our annual support of Austin's Refugee Day Festival with our community partners, the Central Texas Red Cross. And despite the pandemic, we continue to work closely with our advisory board member, 2020 MLS Referee of the Year, Ismail Elfath, to develop and support an inclusive and equitable opportunity for referees through the support of equipment, clinics, and leadership development. We also had the opportunity to host a Facebook Live conversation with him and legends Landon Donovan and Howard Webb this past April of 2020. As we continue to make a difference in the community through our love of the beautiful game, we seek and partner with like-minded organizations to collaborate with, including the 4ATX Foundation of Austin FC, as well as supporters groups Austin Anthem, Los Verdes, La 512, and Austin's American Outlaws, just to name a few. Please follow us on social media and find out how you can be part of and contribute to our charitable efforts giving back to our community through the beautiful game.
Hello everybody, and thank you for joining us. Welcome to the 2021 Texas Soccer Summit presented by the Striker Texas. This hour of the conference is brought to you by the Austin Soccer Foundation. The Austin Soccer Foundation is a non-profit charity making a difference in our community through inclusive and equitable support and initiatives based on the love of the beautiful game. Make sure you connect with the Austin Soccer Foundation on Instagram and Twitter. You can find them at ATX Soccer FNDN. That's at ATX Soccer FNDN. I'm Paul Leese, former head coach for the men's soccer team at University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley. I'll be your moderator today as we discuss the development of the college game with a keen eye on the academy and youth path. I have three terrific panelists with me today. We have Ms. Angela Kelly, women's head coach from University of Texas up in Austin. We have Mr. Paul McGinley, head men's soccer coach at Trinity University. And we also have Kevin Hudson, men's soccer head coach at Southern Methodist University. What I'd like to do first is throw it to our panelists to briefly introduce themselves and talk a little bit about their programs they've been doing particularly recently. If Ange, if you don't mind, ladies first, if you mind kicking us off. I can't hear you, Ange. Are you on mute?
Not anymore. That's 25 cents in the Zoom world as far as our team's concerned. I was just saying it's a pleasure for being here, Paul. Thank you for always being the consummate gentleman and letting women go first. It's a pleasure to spend time with all of you this afternoon. The Striker, really excited about the Striker Texas and everything that it's going to bring to the public and all of the great information in the players that are in the great state of Texas. As for what we're doing here at the University of Texas, our team has reported 2.5 weeks ago. We have the number one recruiting class in the country. 5 of those young players, mid-year players, have enrolled and stepped onto our campus as 17-year-olds, and just funny enough, they've all just turned 18 in the past 2.5 weeks. Have a young lady that's also joining us from New Zealand who was unable to come in the fall. So just excited to get that new crop of 6 players in and amongst the squad. Training in our 8-hour week. If people are familiar with the NCAA rules and regulations, we're allowed 8 hours, 4 of which are soccer, the other 4 strength and conditioning, speed and agility, and about to begin our 20-hour week next week, with our first match being on February 28th versus the Houston Dash. I want to show our players the standard right on the front foot. I think James Clarkson at Houston Dash, congratulations to him winning the league last year and just doing wonderful things there. So just excited to start our spring.
Thanks, Ange. Great to have you with us. Yeah, definitely congratulations to the Houston Dash. Fantastic achievement for them. Coach McGinley, I've known you for a long time. It's always great to see you. Please go ahead and tell a little bit about yourself and fantastic program you have down there at Trinity.
Thanks, Paul. Great to see you once again. Yeah, entering, pretty frightening even just to share this, for entering my 30th season here at Trinity. Arrived in 1991 to San Antonio, and I found it to be a great home, and enjoying it as much now as I did way back then. Much the same as Coach Kelly, we're in the middle of our preseason with strength and conditioning in the morning and training in the afternoon. We go 5:30 to 7:30 with our evening session. We've got a rather large group of players, a little more than we would normally carry. We're closer to 40 players right now on the spring roster, and about to engage in competition in the Southern Collegiate Athletic Conference. We're about 10 days away from heading to Louisiana to play Centenary College to kick off an 8-game spring season, culminating in a semifinal and final for the conference tournament ending April 24th. So it's pretty concentrated. We had our first game last week, and I think the calculation was it was the first game in 412 days, which is just amazing even to utter. Came with its rash of injuries, maybe to be expected after not playing for such a long time. The players really didn't quite understand the flow of the game, and it was pretty quick and pretty aggressive all the way through. So we're actually nursing a couple of injuries going into another scrimmage this weekend. But all in all, just happy to be back on the grass and happy to have the players back in the program.
Yeah, it's great to see you, Coach, and I know you're as humble as ever. We do have 3 great programs being represented by you guys on the panel today, and I've got to make sure I let all our listeners know that Coach McGinley is a national champion with his Trinity team. I think I remember, Paul, when I was just starting out as an assistant coach, I think I remember that was close to the time you guys went and won the national championship. Am I right in saying it was without dropping a single game? Was that 24-0?
It was it was a long time ago. Thanks for reminding me, Paul. I appreciate that. 2003, we actually got to the Final Four 2002, and remarkably went through the 2003 season 24-0. But I think the biggest story on top of that, Paul, is the very next season we got to the quarterfinals and lost a game which broke a 43 consecutive win streak, which I think stands to this day. I hope no one beats it, but it was a remarkable achievement for that group of players at that time.
Yeah, no, fantastic. I remember that was, I think, around the time when I first met you. And not only is it a testament to the fantastic job you're doing with your program down there, but again, just from a friendship point of view. You've always been fantastic in, just supporting young coaches. So again, great to have you here. Another fantastic program being represented by Coach Hudson. Kevin, please give us a little bit of an update on how things are going with you guys at SMU.
Sure. Yeah, first off, thanks, Paul. Thrilled to be with the group today in the Striker Texas and get a chance to chat. Things at SMU are moving quick. We started preseason on the 3rd of January, so we're 5.5 weeks into it. Had a couple exhibitions late January and started our league play official games last weekend with one in Memphis last weekend. We'll head to Tampa on Friday to continue the American Athletic Conference league season. So yeah, it's coming thick and heavy at this point, but like the other coaches said, yeah, thrilled at this point to be back playing meaningful games and competing and letting the young men do what they really love, and continuing hoping to trying to win more championships and develop players. So yeah, thrilled to be here though.
Yeah. Well, I think we all know as well, it's been an incredibly difficult year. Collegiate athletics, I know, each of your teams, it's been a long time since they've been on the field. So again, I know that we've tried to shift this fall season to the spring. You guys are currently at the beginning of that season. We wish you lots of luck, stay healthy, and hopefully we'll see a lot more success and wins coming your way. So once again, for those who may have joined us late, welcome to the 2021 Texas Soccer Summer, brought to you by the Striker Texas. The Striker Texas is a place that brings you exclusive features on players and other soccer happenings from around the state of Texas. We're here today to talk primarily about the college development program. We have 3 great college coaches on the panel today, and I'd like to kick off, if I can. Coach McGinley, you certainly are the longest tenured, I think, coach on the panel. So you've seen soccer in the state of Texas develop over the past 20 plus years, shall we say. Can you give us a little bit of a summary of what you've seen in that development? I'm talking about the youth development side as it's moved forward into the U.S. Academy structure. You've been heavily involved in recruiting those players. What have you seen happen over the last 10 to 20 years?
Well, I think I might have to go a little deeper than that, Paul. I was thinking about the first elite group of players that I had the privilege to work with, and it was the 1974 birth year. It was the Ohio North State team in Region 2, and it doesn't seem like that long ago, but 30 years has passed pretty quickly. But everything's improved. Coaching's improved, players have improved, facilities have improved. I think competition has gotten stronger also, particularly in the last decade on the men's, on the boys' side. When I think about being in the room where it happened in 2007, John Hackworth, the current under-17 coach, announced the start of the academy. We had the Olympic development staff in Mississippi that summer in July of 2007, and many of the coaches that were involved in the programs that were about to be the first academy programs were in that room. So that doesn't seem that long ago either, but we're 14 years on from the start of the academy, and then that's changed again, most recently. But I really just see tremendous improvements in all those areas of the game. No longer are we looking for a patch of grass to train. We've got facilities all over Texas that have improved greatly, particularly in the last decade. And the coaching profession is that now. It is a profession where we've got highly trained professionals working at all levels, not just the youth, but in college and obviously in the program that's been expanded recently, to include other leagues. So I think we're in a good spot. I think we're in a good spot currently. And I'm just happy to be still participating in one cog of that at the college level.
Yeah. And it's great that you've seen, that development here. I know you've been in San Antonio for a long time, so you've seen that development, which is fantastic. Kevin, I'm thinking about when I first started coaching, and I remember the great teams up there in Dallas, the Dallas Texans and Solar. We're very fortunate that we've always had tremendous talent in this state, particularly in Dallas. How has it been in more recent times, particularly with the introduction of the U.S. Development Academy, the Dallas Texans and Solar being incorporated into that? What have you seen in the developmental stage of those youth players, particularly as they come into the college ranks right after you've been recruiting them?
Yeah, sure. It's a good question. The establishment of the DA, I guess it came to Texas. We waited a year, I think, and we came in a year later in 2008 or maybe 2009. Yeah, the players, I've been here as a coach since 2007, so I don't quite have the tenure of coach, but yeah, they're significantly better coached, and just their preparation from a technical aspect is better, but they're better coached and they understand the game better when they get here. So the transition is not as significant as it once was, but at the same time, it's still a jump. And being a top player for the Dallas Texans or Solar or whatnot, it doesn't necessarily guarantee you, straight into the team, right? It's still a jump, but it has progressed in a very positive manner here. Just the professionalism of training and under what play at a higher level. It's been very beneficial to us. We're very fortunate at SMU. I don't hide behind that fact, is that we have the top talent hotbeds, in Dallas and throughout the state of Texas to recruit from, and we don't hide behind the fact that we want players from this region, and starting in Dallas and expanding through Texas is the foundation of the program we want to put together. So it has always been positive. The growth in Dallas and Texas has been strong, and it's these roots go back decades. It's not just a 2000 2010. This is 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s when all this really got going.
And it's great to see that development. I know that a lot of those youth players have gone through your programs and have gone on to play professionally, which is fantastic. I want to talk about the development that is provided to them within your programs at the college level. Before I do that, though, I'd like to bring Ange in and again, just talk briefly about the youth setup before we really dig deep into the college environment. Certainly the U.S. Developmental Academy has risen, as we've just heard from Coach Hudson and Coach McGinley. It's raised the bar for the level of the players entering college. How have you seen the development on the girls' side? Just recently, the Development Academy took initiative, and I know it's slightly changed. The ECNL has obviously been doing a great job, in recent times as well. Talk to us about the level of youth development that you see with the young players that you recruit and bring into the program at UT.
Yeah, I mean, just to just touch on what Kevin mentioned. I mean, you go back to the very first national championship on the women's side with Anson at the University of North Carolina. He had the players such as the Carla Overbecks, right, Dallas, Texas, and he hasn't won a national championship without a player from Dallas, Texas on his roster. And I think on the women's side, that's just enough to be said. And all three of the coaches on the panel are incredibly fortunate to have the best players in America coming out of our state. And I truly believe that on the women's side. There's other states that are definitely producing talent, but I think just the professionalism that is put into the game, the amount of resources that the clubs in all of the major cities and the outlying communities are putting into both the men's and the women's game is just tremendous. And they get a professional model when they step up to the field. Hopefully they're not going to ball around. They're not waiting for the coach to show up. But they have their socks pulled up, and they understand how to carry themselves more as a professional. And definitely seeing that in the youth side. They're understanding a little bit more of the gamesmanship, a little bit more of the nuances of the game at a younger age. That's certainly coming from them being able to view the game at a higher level than they're playing, whether it be in person from our MLS franchises or NWSL franchises, or it be the exposure that credit to Fox Sports and ESPN for putting the EPL is so accessible. It used to just be a couple Saturdays. I remember like 10 years ago, a couple Saturdays we'd get to see Man City versus Man United. Now, you could be watching it all day, every day of the week. So that's tremendous. As for the players that are coming in and ready for the collegiate level, they're still playing against people that are possibly 4 years quicker, faster, stronger. And there's definitely things about the game. When they go and they play on their U17 youth national team, they're training against their age group, right? They're the best in the country in their age group. Well, when you put that talent in and amongst some 22-year-olds, 21, 22-year-olds, now maybe they're not making it to the ball as quick, or the organization of the back line and the defense is a little harder to combine around and with their predictable combinational play. So there's definitely things about the game that they can learn as they progress from club, but just overall, I just think the state of both the men's and the women's game is just tremendous from the professionalism standpoint.
And I think you hit on a topic there that I've always had a lot of discussions about, and it's taking those youth players when they graduate from high school, those 18-year-olds that come into a collegiate program, and they're thrown in now, sometimes for the first time, playing against players who are significantly older than them, bigger and stronger and faster, as you mentioned. So I want to dig into the development that you guys provide at the college level. Certainly, if you look at the youth environment right now, you mentioned tremendous resources are being put into, the MLS Next academies. We have USL franchises more and more popping up and doing a very good job providing opportunities for youth players to be developed at a high level. So right now, let's talk about, what do you really focus on? For those who are not familiar with the college environment, it's been flipped this year due to some of the COVID restrictions. Normally, college will play their season during the fall, and the spring is then a shorter season, but you still have plenty of opportunities to play games and develop with the players. So why don't I ask, we'll start with Kevin, but I'd like you guys to jump in at any time. What kind of focus on with your group of players in developing them to be able to play at the level that you demand, which is a very high level Division I program, and potentially maintain the success that you guys are having at SMU?
Sure. The objective here is, obviously, first off, develop good student athletes, push them towards graduation in a meaningful degree, develop great people, and also going with that is, okay, how do we win championships, and how do we develop professionals? So, from our team last year in 2019, of that first 11, 7 of those players have signed professional contracts or have been drafted into MLS. So, that is a bar. It's a high bar, but we believe that that's right, and that if we want to try to be a top 10 program, that producing professionals is a process that we want to undertake. A common understanding that college soccer plays in the fall, and that's it. And all the coaches on this panel will understand that couldn't be further from the truth, and that it is a year-round development model in that our players will arrive here, beginning of July and train with the strength coach and train together and prepare for preseason in August, and we'll play August to December, take a little break, get back together in January, play through beginning of May, and then they're off with a different team in a different setting, whatever it may be, and USL2 or an NPSL or whatever else in the summer for 6 to 8 weeks, and they're back with us. So this is a year-round development model. It's not. You can develop in college. You will develop in college. You will get an opportunity at the next level for the right players with the right desire to do that. But you can also get a wonderful education and experience too. So we want to train them in the most professional environment we can. They should not. The players often leave here saying, it is as professional and more professional at SMU as it is at the USL level or going over and playing in a lower tier in Europe or whatnot. 10 to 12 years ago it was said, or 15 years ago it was like, I had it better at SMU than I had it in MLS. That has changed significantly now with the resources in MLS. But we want to treat you as a pro, develop you as a person, develop you as a player, and continue the progress towards degree, championships, and hopefully a professional career. So I think it's always interesting when people say, you have to choose, trying to be a pro or playing in college. I think you can do both, and I think we've proven, and certainly many places throughout the country continue to prove that this is a viable pathway. It is not the only pathway, but it is a viable pathway for the ones who choose it.
Paul, we've already talked about the program you have down there at Trinity. I've seen firsthand, you guys do a great job. You've won a national championship. If we're looking at the greater opportunities now for youth players, like we've talked about with the MLS Next Academies, they're putting together the MLS U23 Reserve League. You've got more USL programs offering youth development and more opportunities for an 18-year-old to go ahead and remain with a professional organization. The development that they may get there, like we just talked about, the resources that are being put into these organizations is tremendous. What would be the value that you provide? Talk about, again, the difference maybe between what a youth player who at 18 years of age may choose to remain with a USL academy team or a USL League One or League Two environment, if they're fortunate within the MLS. How does the development differ at the college level?
Yeah, this fall was obviously a strange one for all of us. At Division III, no one played, so it basically just became training Monday to Friday, and then on the road to Houston, Dallas, Austin, or San Antonio. Pretty much myself and my assistant out on the road. What I discovered during this is there's a lot of players that sometimes go unnoticed, and they all have a different opportunity, a different pathway. College, I think, is going to remain the goal for, I would go as far as to say, the majority of the players, but increasingly there are some top-end players in all these major conurbations that will have the opportunity to go on and immediately have access to a professional environment. And then that's, it's happened locally with students here in San Antonio. It happens more in the bigger cities of Dallas and Houston, but Austin also. So the fact that pathway is available is fantastic, but it's not for everyone. I think in the state of Texas, you could probably count, Kevin would probably know better, but probably count on two hands those players that would then go on immediately to pro contracts and skip the college environment. So I think the rising tide lifts all ships, and think the level of play has increased, but I don't think, certainly at our level, we haven't felt it that when the top end players are signed into professional careers, it's not really impacting us. I think we're getting better and more prepared 18-year-olds coming into the college game, and that can only be better. But the realization about the quantity of good players that are playing club soccer in the state of Texas was reinforced this year by the 10 weekends that either I was on the road or my assistant coach Edward Carty was on the road, and we're able to identify maybe a lot more players than we would ordinarily had we had a full schedule.
For everyone listening at home, go ahead, Ange.
I was just gonna say, Paul, consider yourself fortunate. I think we'd all love to be able to get back out there on the road, and hopefully we get to see that sooner than later for sure.
Yeah, I realized that the Division I coaches were restricted to your homes and offices, but being a good goose, I called Kevin a couple of times if I saw someone that was a little special, and of course he already knew about them. So, but just trying to keep him in the loop.
No doubt you guys have had to work through a lot of difficulties over the past 12 months. But based on what you guys have just said, would it be fair then to say that with the increase in the pro pathway that we're now starting to see in the US, with the professional organizations, more and more opportunities being provided, Kevin, particularly at the Division I level, would it be fair to say that a larger pool of players will then be no longer developed in the college game if they have these opportunities? And after Kevin's comments, I'd like to throw it to Ange and have you talk about the professional discussions you have with some of your players on the women's side. I know that on the men's side, almost every young player will say, I want to play pro, I want to play pro. There are far fewer opportunities for the women to play at a professional level. So Kevin, how is it reflecting now on the number of high-level players that you may see? And then Ange, please follow up with your thoughts on the women's side.
Sure. I mean, the players that we've recruited, long before I was the coach here, we want to recruit what are those top 25, top 50, top 100 players in the country, right? And still going to do our work and due diligence to find those under-recruited players or diamonds in the rough, and we'll continue to do that. 2010, we had, it was 11 years ago, we had 2 players not come to college that were in our recruiting class, and we've had guys sign GA contracts, and guys leave early, and guys go to Europe, and all that stuff. And that's okay. That's healthy. And that's the type of player and people we want to recruit. There are, I would say 10 years ago, there are, 10 guys, now there may be 30, 40, 50 signing pro contracts. So it is different. I think it is that relationship, the overall standard of the game has risen. More players are signing pro contracts. So I don't know if we're getting, quality. I don't think so. You're still looking for, that unique player. There are kids are going to take the pro pathway, and there are kids who are going to go to college. And it doesn't mean that those kids going to college don't have the quality of some of those professional players. Maybe their ambition is different, and they, the education is in their front of their mind, and they see this as a viable pathway. The challenge comes when, and I think, you always adapt, right? And the challenge comes when you lose players and players sign professional contracts, either leaving college early or signing contracts like close to the end of their senior year. And when you're left saying, I have a hole in my roster, how do I fix this? And that has changed over the last 10 to 15 years in this country, is that, is really a couple ways. You fix it with a player who is still remaining, to be recruited. Typically comes with one, a couple issues. Why are they not committed already? And that's normally, well, they're going to be a pro, or there is a, educational risk that may come along with it. You fix it with a player internationally who is late to the recruiting process and is in a gap year and a bit older, and that has become very prevalent in the Division I game, and even Division II, Division III, and NAI, and everywhere else. It's very prevalent too. Or you fix it with a transfer. So that's where the nuance comes of the challenge of what the pathway is. But I don't think the overall quality. If you said, the level of team at SMU in 2000 or 2010 or 2020, we hope that we are continuing to raise the level of the program as the overall level of soccer in this country continues to increase. So yeah, it is a challenge, but it's a healthy challenge that we welcome, and that we want players who are ambitious and want to move on professional level. And if a player tells us, hey, I'm going to sign a pro contract, it happened, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago with a young man named Christian Cappies from Houston who, just signed with Brøndby the other day, in Denmark. And, it's part of the process, and we'll deal with, we want kids who have that ambition and that goal. And, if those players make it to college and we can help the development process, 1, 2, 3, 4 years, graduation, we are here for that step too.
And I think, Paul, just on the women's side, historically, the NCAA it's $1 billion industry. The facilities at the highest level are top notch, better than what they would find around the world in the women's game. And if you look at every U.S. women's national team to win a World Cup or an Olympics, certainly Canada has benefited from the development of their players in the NCAA, with 90% of their players having went through the NCAA, numerous Mexican international players, and you go on down the list from Japan to New Zealand, Australians. They've all come to this breeding ground, if you will, because it has been known as the most competitive women's league before you get into the pro, right? Before you'll cut your teeth here and then get into the pro. I spent an afternoon with Alan Shearer last spring, and when NBC Sports was in town, and we just walked around campus and just picking his brain, and he just looked at me after spending a couple hours and said, Ange, here we are in England. We think we're doing great. We started the women's pro league. We let them in, and they play a match on the men's pitch once a year. We have some TV deals, and to be honest, we're not even close to doing enough. And for people like Alan to be going back to England and saying, listen, we need to put more into the women's game. It's not good enough what we're doing. And then obviously now Man City, Man United, they're all putting more money into their squads, which is fantastic. So therefore, the game is growing. Now that just means that the 17-year-old is going to have a bigger step to take when they're competing against those 23, 24, 25-year-olds. And once again, I think the NCAA on the women's side is just such a tremendous competitive environment for them to mature emotionally as much as physically. And then I think we'd be remiss not to mention that every player that comes through any of our programs leaves with a degree, right? And that's somewhat of an insurance policy, that if there's a 2-foot tackle down the road in a year or two, I still have an opportunity to gain a career. Or if and when my professional career is up, I have a degree to fall back on. That's something that's very, very important. If in fact they're thinking about coming back and living in the United States, college degrees are such a part of our society and an important part in order to get a job. And the majority of the players that play in the U.S. or want to come back and live in the U.S. That's just the perspective of the women's side. The men's side's obviously larger in the professional realm, but thankfully the women's side is progressing.
I think that's a terrific point. And it's great to see the growth of the women's game. I would even go, following from what you were just saying about international footballers, coaches coming over and seeing what is being done in the US. I came over, I played here at college, and I remember coming over and playing at Furman University. The facilities, the level of organization, the coaching that I received as a collegiate athlete was higher than I'd seen when I was a youth player and trying to make the next level in the UK. Oftentimes, the coaches didn't really have any game plans. They didn't have any tactical awareness. And when I came to the States, the level of understanding of training, fitness, and of running a program was at a much higher level. So it's great to see what we're doing here at the university level. What I'd like to move on to next, I'd like to try and give you guys a magic wand almost as well. But what is it at the college level, if you could add, if you could change, how would you improve what we're doing to develop players, again, just to give them the best experience possible? So whoever likes to jump in, go ahead.
I'll kick off, Paul. Time is always the enemy, right? We just wish we had more of it. And there are some restrictions that the NCAA place on college programs too, about how much time you can actually spend with the students. But just when you feel that they're about ready to have a great understanding of the game, they graduate. And we're in a strange situation right now. It's a dynamic that all three of us are in, that our seniors shouldn't be playing right now. The seniors should have finished their season in December. So we have the largest number of seniors we've ever had in the program. We have 12 seniors playing right now, and that changes the dynamic a little bit, with first years and sophomores ready to make their mark on the program. But we've got this big wall of seniors that are still here, and it's not that they have 1 foot in and 1 foot out, but they're getting news from medical schools and they're getting news from law schools, and their priority is still to train and play, and we're doing that every day, but they're closer to graduation and closer to being out the door. So it really has been a strange dynamic, and we all know how important building a team is. But our route was to go down the road of incorporating the senior class and picking the best available players for contests, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to have some carryover of seniors coming back in the fall. In fact, one of them's traveling up 35 to join Kevin to continue his education up there and turn into a Mustang from a Tiger. So I don't know how that happens. I think it's been a challenge, honestly, from a coaching standpoint, in managing not just the size of the group, but everyone in a little bit of a different place. Very fortunate to have Edward Carty, who played for me for 4 years and now in his 10th year as an assistant. And we just hired Michael LaHood, formerly of Wake Forest and 10-year MLS veteran, joining us. Also, Cardone, a former Trinity alum, recently signed a new contract with SAFC, so keeping that in the family with the goalkeepers. So I think that we're unbelievably fortunate to have the environment we have, the facilities, just like Angela talked about. If Alan Shearer is impressed with what's going on at UT, we're just a little Division III school in South Texas, but we're enormously blessed with resources and talent. And unlike 7 of Kevin's players who are moving on to a professional environment, our students are trying to decide. It's a difficult problem. Do I go to Duke Law School or do I go take the University of Chicago option? So it's that's the problems that they're facing at the minute, which is first world problems.
Not a bad problem to have. So,
Right.
Kevin, I'd like you to weigh in as well. So again, how can we, within the college environment, continue to push? I like what Paul said earlier. With everything that has been moving forward in the past 10, 20, 30 years, the rising tide is lifting all boats. I think the level of training is getting better and better. So even though we have players moving into professional opportunities, we've still got a higher level player being developed coming into the college ranks, and the teams are continually growing and getting stronger. But again, I know there's been discussion over the last 2-3 years about the 21st century model, at the Division I level. What things would you like to see maybe being initiated in order to continue that improvement in our development at the college game?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's easy when you say, what's the magic wand? What would you fix? Haven't really been asked that. It's an interesting question, but we have a lot of things that are right, which is the first thing we should note. And I don't want this to sound like I'm jumping on a soapbox here, because we have it really good when we think about the environments we have, the resources, the type of young men and young women we get to work with, and the support from institution. We are amateur soccer organizations within the NCAA with significant budgets with very little revenue. Like, we're very fortunate with what we have. So I don't want to sound like I'm getting on a soapbox and complaining, but the 21st century model was and I think will continue to be a hot topic in college soccer. I think we were very close last year for an April vote that may have gone through, had a ton of momentum, and then obviously the world gets turned upside down with COVID. So I think, though I am a huge proponent of that, I don't know if that has the momentum at the moment because of some of the challenges financially and resources and that within, in college, within the institutions. And I think we're seeing, as we go into games this weekend, when teams are playing in 5-degree weather and 12-degree weather, that it's this early spring, winter soccer in most of the country, though we're blessed here. It's cold and it's going to be a challenge. So the one thing I look at, and Coach McGinley hit it well, time is a massive resource for us. I would love to have more access to the players in a summer training environment. Just in that the preparation, the biggest part of our year is typically end of August through early December. And these players get to work with us for about 2.5 weeks before we play real games that count. Anywhere else in the world, that's crazy, and that your preparation for a meaningful season is 2 weeks. You're trying to cram 6 weeks worth of training sessions into 2 weeks without killing your players. It's just unrealistic to think that you can prepare your team, especially your new players, into whatever sort of system and tactical organization you want, to get that done in 2.5 weeks so that they can be prepared. It just doesn't set the young players up for the greatest opportunity for success. So access, even limited access to working with the players in the summer, would be a massive benefit for us. And I'm fully aware that different resources at different institutions and different levels about summer school and that being provided or not, and all those aspects. But I can assure you, even at the Division III level, that Coach McGinley's boys are there. They're there in the summer. They're preparing early, and though we can't work with them, they're out on their own trying to train with them, and play on their own. If Coach McGinley or his assistant had some time with them, or Coach Kelly or her assistants had time, it is better for the players, it's better for the program, it's better for their development. I think that's one magic wand. And yes, the full calendar, 21st century model will be wonderful. I'm not going to hold my breath, though I hope it does happen.
I think that's a crucial point. Again, preparing players for a very intense season. Not only mentally and physically is it incredibly fatiguing. We need to provide better preparedness for their overall, health as they go into that collegiate season. For those listening at home, again, thanks for joining us at a 2021 Texas Soccer Summit presented by the Striker Texas. You know, Striker Texas are building a community for Texas soccer fans to come together and discuss the beautiful game. Following on again, Ange, I'd like to hear your thoughts on what improvements that, for again, those listening at home, the 21st century model was a discussion based around improving the men's collegiate game into maybe a longer 12-month or 9-month season, trying to take away the short intensity of the fall season and making it more viable for development during a full year. So for those who here are talking about the 21st century model, so again, with an eye on trying to provide a better environment, I'd even like to hear your guys' thoughts on some of the actual rules of the collegiate game compared to the national game, whether it's substitution rules, timing, etc. So, Ange, how would you, here's your magic wand, how would you go ahead and provide a better environment for your student athletes?
Well, I think Kevin and Paul have hit it on the head. Just time, right? There's no replacement for time. We have the shortest competition season in the NCAA with the least amount of time to prepare, as Kevin noted, and there's just different hurdles that we need to climb if we want to be a 2-semester model, such as facilities sharing and financial implications. And it's going to be difficult with our 356 Division I, and you get up to almost 1,000 institutions when you include the Division I, II, and III NAIA. It's just going to be difficult to be on all the campuses. So what's our plan B? If we can go full year, then that's fantastic. But what's plan B? Can we do more in the summer, which Kevin and Paul both agreed with? I think, maybe allowing us an 8-hour week in June, right? I think I can see our athletic directors going for something along those lines pretty quickly, right? And then it goes along with the health and welfare of the student athlete, right? We want to be out there training them in the proper way. We want to have our trainers out there in the hot summer months. And then it just gives you more of this 6-week periodization that we all like to follow in a perfect world. So if I had a wand, I'd say you allow institutions to bring their team to begin preseason starting June 1, maybe start the season a week sooner, end it a week later, in line with volleyball, and give us more of a 14-16 week model opposed to the 12 that we operate under. I can see some headway for that, but that's just me with a wand in my hand.
I'd love to be able to give you that magic wand and make it real. Yeah, Paul, I was just going to say, we're obviously, we could talk for ages. The hour flies by quickly. I think we're all invested in the collegiate game, and it's clear that it is a fantastic environment for many youth soccer players. Before we end up having to wrap up, I'd love you guys to give your final thoughts and contribute in any way that you think could help listeners out there, whether it's young players, parents, to do a better job in developing their game and hopefully being part of the college environment. So, Paul, go ahead. I know you had some.
Okay. Yeah, advice to the young player. They've got to love the ball. The ball's got to be their friend. We have a heavy emphasis on technique in our program, and if the ball's your enemy, someone has to cut the oranges. So we place a heavy emphasis on technical ability. That is you can see players that we've recruited have spent a lot of time on their technical game prior to them getting here. Fitness is a huge component. It's certainly stressed with the first year class coming in. Don't let that be the criteria that gets you unavailable for selection just because you're not fit enough to compete at the next level. The understanding and the psychology, the tactical understanding and the psychology will come, but love the ball and love your body. Take care of your body and make sure that it's an asset to you and not a hindrance.
Ange, Kevin.
No, I mean,
Okay,
oh,
Go ahead, Kevin. We'll go ahead and let Ange finish off at the end. Final thoughts, Kevin.
yeah, no, I mean, it's Coach Paul, Coach McGinley's right. I think the jump is normally, not only is it technical, there's a significant athletic component, and what we look for is obviously a blend. Elite soccer, no matter whatever level you're at, the ability to continue to progress is a combination of technique, pace, power, athleticism, and overall game understanding. And we can't fix we can't fix the technique that should be the foundation of a youth player when he's 18, 19, 20. We believe we can have an impact on the psychological and mental and tactical understanding, and that stuff is easy to continue to develop, but the hard stuff is, what, like Coach McGinley said, the love of the ball. And what we look for is, you want guys who love the game. You want guys who are junkies. When you look out your window and there's 8 guys playing a pickup game, and guys that just can't get enough of being around the game and study the game and are fully immersed in that's what they love, and that is who they are, and it's a foundation of their being is, I'm a footballer. That's those guys are fun to work with, and I think those are our dreams, to have guys who love the game as much or more than us, and those guys are a pleasure to work with and continue to help develop, and those guys will reach their maximum potential. So,
Ange, I think
yeah,
it's
and I
appropriate. You kicked us off, and you also get to have the final word. So again, please share your thoughts with us.
Well, just really quickly on the development of the player. Like, fortunately, there's great coaches in the state of Texas and great coaches around the country, but specifically for us, hopefully they're getting that technique and that technical training in. Because I agree with Kevin, you can't change 18 years of programming, right? So, and then that love, I just, everything that's been said, love of the game, love of the ball. For me, another big thing that we talk about that's simple is ball speed, right? Everybody wants to have a quick speed of play. Well, you can't play quickly if the ball just takes so long to rotate, and it's just one of my biggest pet peeves is a slow moving ball. So we really talk about that, and then once again to ping a ball, you need to have good technique. You need to be able to open your body up, and you need to be able to do all these things that allow us to play quickly. But definitely a love of the game, and just embrace everything that a footballer should be, and everything that they dream to be. We're all here to enhance that. I certainly don't want to close off for everybody and speak for everybody, but it's been an absolute pleasure. I wish everybody the best of luck this spring. It's been a very non-traditional year, but since we are playing in 5-degree weather, may as well go win the match, right? So best of luck to everybody. Paul, it's a pleasure, and to Striker Texas, just really excited about this platform. I think you guys are going to hit a home run, and with everybody you have working with you, just really excited to see where you can take it. Thank you.
Very well said, Ange. Again, unfortunately, our hour is coming to a close. I know that we could, talk forever. We could talk all day long about the game. It's always fun. Certainly like to thank all listeners who have joined us for this hour. Yes, we need to make sure we thank the Austin Soccer Foundation for sponsoring this hour's presentation. You can find them online at ATX Soccer FNDN. I need to make sure I thank our panel, Angela Kelly, women's coach at the University of Texas, Paul McGinley, men's coach at Trinity University, Kevin Hudson, men's coach at Southern Methodist University. Thank you guys for your insight, and we certainly wish you guys much success in your seasons. And to everyone who's been listening, Again, we wish you guys a lot of success in your soccer career, and we hope you guys have a tremendous day. Thank you very much, and goodbye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
On behalf of the Austin Soccer Foundation, we hope you enjoyed today's presentation. Please follow us on social media and let us know how you can join us in giving back to our community through the beautiful game.